There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, the Dwight.
1, 2, 3, set, go.
You're tuned into the Power Chord Hour right here on 107.9 WRFA and on the Power Chord Hour podcast. Today, it is a total honor on this episode. I'm talking to one of the most important songwriters of the 20th century, Mr. Don McLean. And Don's massive hit, which even that's probably an understatement, American Pie, has inspired a brand new children's book. It is called American Pie, A Fable. And on top of the new book, Don is touring all over the world this year. And if you're in the Jamestown listening area, he'll be playing Hammond Sport, New York on July 30th, right up the road. So let's get into books, music, and all of that with an absolute legend. Don, how are you today?
Well, I'm just fine. I'm feeling good and looking forward to doing more shows.
Nice. I want to get into the shows and all that. And I mean, real quick, or not real quick, we'll get into it, but I want to talk about the book as well. You know, how did this, it's for those who don't know, it's this, I got a chance to look through it, this amazing book inspired by American Pie. And I mean, where did this come from? When did the ball start rolling with this? When did the book start, coming together?
This was the brainchild of Spencer Proffer, who came into my life about 2 years ago. And we told him, my manager and I, and some people in Nashville that I work with, that we were going to celebrate this 50th anniversary. And he loved the idea. And he's a fellow with a lot of connections and a lot of important associations. He's a film producer and a record producer, and we signed him up, and we signed agreements in order to do a children's book, a Broadway show, and a documentary movie. Well, the children's book is now out all over the world, and his wife was brilliant at doing this. Her name is Judy Proffer, and she got it all together. And we did the book, and it was based really on my childhood, as well as bits and pieces of the song American Pie, but it really isn't directly associated with the song, but it's in a tangent way it is. And so that was wonderful. And now we're going to make another one called Vincent.
Oh, nice.
Which is going to follow this one. And there'll be others down the road. So because she's already got this Vincent one done, they're just doing the artwork now. So there was that. And then we have a documentary movie, The Day the Music Died, the story of Don McLean's American Pie.
Nice.
And that's going to be an hour and a half movie by a man named Mark Morman, who's done a beautiful, sensitive job of really doing a movie about the song. The American Troubadour documentary on PBS a few years ago was about me, my life, my songs, and so on. This is strictly about the song American Pie. And at some point in the movie, I take up my guitar and I talk about every word of that song.
Wow.
You know, how I wrote it, why I wrote it. Some of it is just nonsense I threw in there, and some of it isn't. Some of it is... you'll see when you see it, but I knew people wanted that, so I said, well, let's do it. So
you have a lot coming. I mean, you have a lot right now already, and I know you've already been touring a lot of the year, and you got the by the time people hear this, the book will be out and everything. So I mean, you're a busy man, you know. And going with the book, you know, the child in the book, or the boy, is gifted a guitar, and, you know, like we were just talking about, like you said, it draws inspiration from your childhood and everything. Was guitar your very first instrument?
Guitar was a dream to me, and by that I mean I started. There was a man that lived behind us. He and his wife, Marguerite and George Andrews. And George was kind of a holdover. This was the 1950s. He was kind of a holdover from the Roaring Twenties, you know, and he had a beautiful ukulele, and he could play it, and he could sing these songs, and would come over to our house, and he would sing songs on the ukulele, and he fascinated me. And I thought to myself, as a kid, now I'm probably only 9 or 10. I thought, well, maybe I could, play that because it's only got 4 strings. And he showed me a couple of chords on the ukulele, and that was the first instrument that I started to play on. And that's, by the way, going to be auctioned. They're going to do a big auction next summer, Julian's Auction House. And I have that ukulele that
Wow,
I
you
had
still
as a
have
baby.
that?
I have it, yeah, and it's going to be auctioned. And so, I began to suddenly, all around me were guitars and banjos, because there was rock and roll everywhere and there was folk music everywhere. And so everybody was starting to make their own music. And so it was a lot easier to get a guitar and learn 2 or 3 chords, and then to be able to sing "Don't Be Cruel" or "This Land Is Your Land," because they're all sort of similar. They were simple folk type melodies. Even Elvis always sang these kinds of songs. So, and Ricky Nelson and the Everly Brothers, they were all basically country oriented, especially the Everly Brothers and Elvis. So it was all one big musical thing where people started making music together. And I drifted into playing the guitar, and then it was amazing because there was always one new thing after another, a new lick, a new song, a new chord. It was so exciting, and pretty soon I was pretty good. I would practice, all the time, and I would listen to records, and I would learn the parts that were played, and try to watch them on TV if they came along. You couldn't really find anything in those days. You had to wait for somebody to be on television to see how they did something, and you only had a second to watch, and you had to remember it. So it was all very exciting. And right at that time, this whole thing with coffee houses sort of fell right in my lap. I was 14 years old or whatever, and suddenly there were, little coffee houses and little concerts and little festivals and everything. And they wanted people just like me, to come and sing a few songs and could play guitar. And so I started working, and then I graduated to going into the village, and I had a manager, and he had pictures taken and biography written and all this stuff. And one step into the deep water, and pretty soon I was up to my neck in show business.
Now at like 14, when you're in those coffee houses, are you like playing covers and stuff, or by that time are you already writing originals and like kind of getting into songwriting?
I wasn't writing originals, but I was a hell of a banjo picker, and
Nice.
And I was a real good guitar picker, and I was working out arrangements of folk songs and pop songs and songs that I heard, and I would do them my way.
Yeah.
So I basically started working on my act when I was 15.
Wow.
And I'm still working on it.
Now you
That's really true. I'm not kidding. I've been 60 years I have worked on this act.
That's impressive. I like that too, because I wonder that when you're doing something, I mean, like music for you for so long, I feel like you got to keep it fresh, right? I mean, you got to do something like that if you're learning, progressing, whatever. I mean, you got to do something to keep that, to keep that fresh.
You have to do it yourself. And the way you have to do it is you have to do new things. You have to challenge yourself. And you learn to be on the high wire without a net. Because there's, I don't have monitors with the words on them or anything. I mean, you have to use my mind. I have to be prepared for anything. And therefore, one of the things you have to do is you have to work a lot. So I basically never stopped working. I worked for 50 years until that pandemic took a couple of years away. And now I'm back doing it all the time again, because you have to. You just get ready for anything when you're working a lot, and anything can happen in the hall, outside of the hall, backstage, whatever. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, we had we were there this weekend. There was a fire that broke out
Ooh.
backstage. We had to worry about that. That got taken care of. The show went on. We had a tornado that passed over the hall in St. Louis, and we had to delay the sound check, and it flooded everywhere and blew the crap out of St. Louis. And so,
Yikes.
Yeah, we're right there.
Still, touring still sounds pretty exciting.
Well, traveling and rambling is exciting, especially when you're going everywhere. You play the tent shows, and you play the big festivals, and you play the little festivals, and you play the theaters, and you really get to see Main Street America. Like I've seen it like nobody else.
Oh, I love that.
You really see it. It's had the crap knocked out of it by these big box stores, and there's a lot of empty storefronts in a lot of cities now. There's a lot of we don't need to do a lot of building. We need to occupy all the empty places that there are now.
Yeah, you're not kidding. No, I'm a big. I love the road trip. I love the back roads, going Main Street and stuff like that. And yeah, you're right. You kind of see it throughout the years. You lose a lot of that, like, I don't know, the cool stuff that gives these places charm. You kind of lose that charm of it. I did want to ask too, while we're talking about touring. Earlier this year, you did play Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa, and on February 3rd, I mean the anniversary of the day the music died. What is that like playing on? I mean, obviously the connection of American Pie and everything. What's it like performing on that stage, like the same one, last stage that Buddy Holly and Ritchie Valens and Big Bopper were on? I mean, is it different at all when you're playing a show in in a place like that?
Well, I've played Royal Albert Hall and Festival Hall and Carnegie Hall, and I've been on a lot of stages that had a lot of very important people who were on them, and but in this particular case, I loved those three performers. I loved Buddy Holly very much, and so it was just an honor to go there and perform for those people, and at that moment, and it's in the movie.
Oh, nice.
You see it. Yeah, and I met with the little sister of Ritchie Valens, who was only about 4 or 5 years old when her brother was killed.
Oh, wow.
And she tells a very poignant story about, in those days, they didn't. My cousin Gregory, he's 80 years old now. He's a doctor. He lost his mother when he was 12. And he came home, and a kid from up the block said, "Hey, your mother died."
Oh, geez.
That's how he found out. Oh. Well, the same thing happened to Ritchie Valens' little sister. Somebody said, "Well, your brother's dead."
Oh my God.
That kind of thing,
Yikes.
Yeah. And so she came into her mother, who was, obviously very loving and loved. But the image, I had her talk about home life and Ritchie Valens' mother, and she would buy his clothes for him, and he wouldn't even go to a clothing store when he was on the road. Mother had to buy his clothes for him. So he was a little boy, really, only 17,
Wow.
And she just cried, and they cried together, and they were very close. And basically, they never got over it. They never got over it. So she came and told me all about it, and this is the thing. I think that American Pie has that sense of loss in it that we really do never get over these things. We put them down under, and we soldier on. As we get older, we have more and more of these things.
Was the going back real quick to the Surf Ballroom? I mean, was that the first time you ever played there? I'd assume throughout the years that this year was not your first.
That's the second time I played there. The time before, I think, was 1997. And I don't exactly know why that was, but it was some sort of an event, and I did that. But this one was important, and I really wanted to do it.
You got a lot on your plate. You got lots going on right now. Besides just playing shows and everything. It's nice. It's a good year. I feel like
it really is nice. It's very nice. And And I'm very thankful to be 76 years old and to know exactly where I'll be for the next 2 years at least.
And you're still doing, which I love that too. I mean, the other, I mean, again, American Pie, I was even thinking about it earlier, and it's like, it's one thing to have a popular song in an era, but if the fact that you have a song 50 years later that I would say even like any generation, like any age would know, that's not something you would find from it. You can't ask somebody who's like, say, 18, like a lot of songs you could tell, ask them about from like 71 or whatever. They're not going to know it. They're probably going to know American Pie, which is not something you just get with, with every song, which is quite amazing. I mean, is there, I know you don't, you can't tell why a song is as big as it is or why it got big, but is there anything you credit for the longevity of it? Why it's not just, a song that hit the charts and then just disappeared a few years later? Is there anything you can credit to that?
I think well, there's a lot of reasons, and yet I don't understand why. You can give a lot of reasons, but it doesn't really add up to why. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of the things that I think matters, though, is I think that parents would play it for their children. And then they've grown up and their children have played it for their children. And little children like to go to sleep with it. And then as they grow up, they learn what it means. And they start to ask questions about politics and America and rock and roll and Buddy Holly and all this stuff. So it's been a constant reminder of the country, on a musical level and also a political level. And that's what's going to be so nice about this movie is that it's going to put you right there as if you're on my back, or if you're a little squirrel sitting on my shoulder, and watching my life happen, and then watching this song get written and watch what it does through the years afterwards. It's a very well done and a very difficult thing to do, what he did, because anybody can write a song about an artist, or I mean, to make a movie about an artist. You go to A to B to C. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is different. This is showing the underground, long gestation period before this song emerged, and then all the things that it's done afterwards, the way it's affected people and communities and different countries, people in different countries, all around the world. So it's quite a good job that Mark Moorman did.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited for the documentary and everything.
You'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it. I've seen it 2 or 3 times, and usually I don't like to watch something more than once that I'm involved with, because I don't really do that. But I remember it. It comes back to me in my head, and I remember seeing things. That's a good sign. It's something you'll want to see again.
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, again, and Don, I know you're super busy today doing press, so we'll let you go here. But again, you got the new book, American Pie, a Fable. You're touring all around this year. We got a documentary coming. We got another book coming. There's so much Don McLean stuff to check out. So I mean, is there anything I missed that we should tell people before I let you go?
Well, all you have to do is every now and then Google me, and if you want, you can go to the YouTube website. Just go Don McLean YouTube website, and you'll go there, and there are all sorts of interviews and podcasts, and I even did a video about how I play the guitar and sing with it, which I thought was nice, and another one I did for the Martin guitar people, where I just kind of talked a little bit about the guitar and sang. I played Martin guitars all my life, and I played a beautiful D28 on that particular video. And I do it on the phone, and you can just hear. I like to hear musicians talk in a way that isn't like a teacher. It's more like a feel thing. Talk about the instrument and how it has to breathe, and how the music has to get out of the instrument, just like the singing has to get out of your chest and out of your body. So much of what I see with young people is the guitar is small and the voice is small, and it's all in, and they're not getting it out. And one of the things that happens when you work for decades is you develop a projection, which if you do it in a strictly acoustic way, which is what I do, it becomes almost like an opera singer. I mean, even when you're singing, quietly, you're still projecting like crazy. And it's an art form, and I don't think most young men and women who want to be singer-songwriters and who play the acoustic guitar have a clue about that. So start their minds thinking in a new direction. That's all it takes, because people want to think about new things. They want to learn stuff, and they just have to be told some things, and then they can start. You see everything in a new way.
Yeah, well, dynamics too. Like I feel like that, like you're talking about, balancing your voice and guitar and making something, making that full sound, working them together.
Yeah, you should, if you get a chance, you can go to my YouTube, scroll down, and you'll see me. I'm wearing a sort of a striped cowboy shirt and sitting on the sofa, and it's tips. And we'll watch it. You'll get a kick out of it. You'll like it.
I'm gonna check this out. Everybody, go check this out. Grab the book. Get ready for more. And Don, this has been great. You've been listening to me talk to Don McLean right here on the Power Chord Hour.